Up in the sky. Look.
It's a bird.
It's a plane.
Grounded Critic here, thanks for tuning into the channel. Today we have another Top 5 DC Multiverse countdown. That's right, another Top 5 DC Multiverse, because he's got a lot of great figures, so I bought a lot of them, and I need to have a reason to buy toys, okay, so this week we're talking about, Superman. Yep, that's what we're doing. Let's not waste any time, let's get right on into it. First up at number 5, we have Hush Superman. He has some really good things going for him and a couple things that I find not so great. But let's start with some of the positives. The colors are great. He has the yellow S on his cape, which is amazing.
It's not an S.
And why don't we get this more often, please? Let's see some more of it.
Here it's an S.
Points of articulation are great. He comes with alternate pair of hands for flight, as well as a flight stand. So, you know, he has the bare essentials that you need for a Superman figure. The sculpt is okay. It's not terrible. Definitely a couple flaws here and there. Biggest flaws that I would point out is he has the droopy S shield. Why this is a continuing problem with McFarlane Superman figures where the S's are always misshaped. I wish we could figure out some way to fix that. And the only other major flaw in this guy is his weird head and skin tone. He's very pale. He looks rather sickly.
When you skip meals, you don't give your body fuel to run on.
And it's odd because in the Doomsday Superman 2-pack, they recolored him and the colors are much better. If he was a little bit taller, you could definitely use him as like a definitive Superman figure. But again, that head just... Whew.
Nobody with any sense wants any part of it.
I feel like he has that same issue that we saw with the first season of the Justice League cartoon show where they kept giving Superman these weird cheek outline, gaunt face, and it just was distracting and it made him look weird. It's not a deal breaker, and the figure is still overall pretty good, which is why he made it to top 5, but the flaws he does have are pretty glaring and kind of annoying more than anything else, and that keeps him from getting any higher on the list.
It makes you a loser.
Okay, that brings us to number 4. Superman of Earth 3. You guys might know him as Ultraman. So in an alternate reality, he's an evil Superman that leads basically an evil version of the Justice League called the Crime Syndicate. So yeah, it's another evil Superman from another reality. So it's not like we haven't seen this 100 times, but this is one of the earlier versions of it and one of the more iconic ones.
Before you run out of gas, Batman, how about if I fill up your tank?
Ultraman's pretty great. I actually like this figure quite a bit. He's got the same upper torso that we just saw from the Hush Superman. And it's very bulky, but I feel like it works better for this figure. Like an evil Superman being bigger and bulkier, kind of just, he looks more imposing. It works better.
Well, I've been working out.
Plus, like, his head sits a little higher up and it fits his body better. Like, this definitely looks more appropriate. I love this cape. It's a little big for like a normal Superman, but for this figure, it's fantastic. And it's very soft and pliable. So it does not affect poses. Negatives, I wish they had gone with one of the designs that had more of a belt, because anytime that McFarlane does these figures that don't have belts, it really starts to look like a diaper. This figure has that problem for sure. It's a little hard to look at. The symbol actually, because of the way it's cut, does not have any kind of misshape to it, which I like. So the U symbol works pretty well. For accessories, he comes with the best accessory of any of the Superman figures. He comes with Build-A-Figure piece for Starro and one of the smaller little Starros that can like latch to the chest. I love this. It's my favorite thing. I just love seeing that Starro figure, and it does have enough bendability to kind of stretch onto almost any figure. Does it sit exactly right? No, it doesn't sit perfect, but it sits well enough to do the job. You can pretty much use it on almost anything. So that is fantastic and has a lot of versatility. There's a whole lot of fun you could have with that. Anyway, so yes, so Ultraman, pretty great. The bigger body works for him overall. Yeah, pretty solid figure. I like him quite a bit.
You're not Superman, you know.
Up next at number 3, we have Justice League Superman. So the texture is the real winner here. At least I'm pretty happy whenever I look at the texture. I think it adds a lot to the figure and really ups the production value, we'll say. He poses well enough. No major issues when it comes to that. I do have some issues, some negatives. So we have the face just does not really look like Henry Cavill. Of all the likenesses, I think this is one of the worst. If he wasn't wearing a Superman costume, I don't think I would assume that was Henry Cavill.
Okay. Who are you? What's the game?
Kind of a fail there, but he still does, he kind of looks like a generic stuntman that was playing Superman. So I don't really hate it, but I really wish, like with the Wonder Woman, we had the re-release for Shazam 2, where they did an update to the Wonder Woman figure, and I really hope that eventually we get this for the Henry Cavill Superman. Maybe we get a Man of Steel re-release of him with an updated, more accurate Henry Cavill head. Other than that, he does have a little bit of an issue standing kind of straight up. Like they angled his neck forward just slightly, that you have to really jank his stomach back to get him to look straight ahead. I feel like if they had just angled it slightly more, so he's almost always a little bit hunched over. But generally he'll be flying anyway, so I don't think most people are going to mind or care. As for accessories, he comes with a flight stand, and that is it. And I mean, yes, that's all you need, but I really would have liked another pair of hands so we could have both the flying hands and both fists, at least. I feel like that is the bare minimum. Overall, the texture and just having a live action Superman figure pushes him up to number 3. I will say also his cape is a little bit thick. It's a little boring.
I have to fumble for the zipper. I have to zip it open. I have to zip it closed.
His cape always had more of like a warm wool kind of texture to it, and this figure doesn't bother with that at all. And we have seen in other McFarlane figures that he really does do pretty well with cape texture, so I'm a little sad that we didn't get that here.
Excuse me, are you done here?
All right, now we're coming down to the wire here. The next one was pretty tough for me to figure out where this figure was going to lie, and honestly, when I tell you what it is, you guys are probably going to be a little confused why this figure made it so high. But myself, when I first got it, I will say it was not one of my favorite figures. But once I opened it and really just messed around with it a lot, the more time I spent with it in hand, messing with it and looking at it, the further and further it kept going up my list.
Pardon my rude entry, but there's little time. Let's go.
Number 2 is the Lois and Clark Superman figure. Not to be confused with like a Dean Cain Superman figure, which also would be fantastic. Okay, but besides the point. So Lois and Clark Superman. Yes, it's kind of the solar suit. It's a different update on that. Now, the comics, he had a couple different versions in this run, and this figure is like a mix of a couple different ones. Some of them he has a higher neckline, which I really would have liked to see what that would look like on this figure. The one we got is still pretty great.
Is this guy cool or what?
The S doesn't have the droop. Top is a little bit of a weird bend to it, but if you're looking at it straight on, it looks pretty great. I feel like this is one of the only times that we've had Superman with this hush body that it looks right to me. And I can't quite put my finger on why it looks right to me. I don't know if his head is just slightly higher or if the way the back of his head lines up with his neck. But he doesn't seem as stocky and bulky as the Hush Superman does or some of the other Superman figures. Whereas I know they have the same body, but there's some reason why this figure, it just works better.
You expect me to believe you, the most ruthless criminal in the galaxy?
You must believe me.
And so I really don't hate the bulkiness of this figure. Downsides, I mean, I don't really have much in the way of downsides. I mean, the only things he comes with is a flight stand and extra hands, which is par for the course with most of these Superman figures. I mean, it's Superman. I don't really need a whole lot else. I would like some more stuff, but frankly, he gives me what I need. And you could say this is like a workaday figure, right? Like it's just 9 to 5. It's just coming in, doing the job. It's not showy like some of the other figures, but it just does what it does very well.
Very nice. Excellent likeness.
All right, here we go. Number 1 is Action Comics 1000 Superman. Once again, here we have a figure. It is the first Superman figure that McFarlane released, and I will be the first one to say, yes, it is in no way a perfect figure. But of the Superman figures that have been released, this one just works. I love the S. The S, it's maybe just slightly big, but it doesn't have the droop. Another thing that I haven't really seen anyone mention is his hair this is the only Superman figure, at least that I own, that his hair has this like slicked, shiny sheen to it, which gives me that like Dean Cain gelled Superman hair that really separates him from the Clark Kent. So I really definitely get those vibes from it. The head sculpt is fantastic. We've seen this head sculpt used later, and it never has looked as good as it did here. On the negatives, yes, his hands are too small. His legs are a little too small as well. And of course, we are missing some of the extra articulation that we would get on every figure after this. And the cape's a little tougher and thicker than it should be. But if you really look at this figure compared to the others, his proportions are much more realistic. He just gives this like classic Christopher Reeve kind of feel to him. There's something about this first figure that really he feels iconic and classic, and even with his flaws, there's enough really good ideas here that I just keep getting pulled back to this figure.
I guess I'm one of those idiots, huh?
For now, I am totally content with this being my go-to Superman figure. This figure is what got me into the McFarlane line in the first place. It's just fun to look at and pose, and it's my first McFarlane figure, so it's always going to hold maybe a special place in my heart. So let me know what you guys think about this figure and all the other figures in the list here. For now, also we have a lot of really cool Supermans coming down the pipeline really quick from McFarlane in the next few months, so who knows, maybe one of those will take the spot here. But for now, this is the list. This is what we got. Hey, thanks for tuning in, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Also, check out these other videos here on the corners, and thanks for tuning in. Hopefully, we'll see you on the next video.